Hey, good morning, folks. AJ, the CEO here, and guess where we're back at? We're back here at Antioch. Don't get any ideas. No, I'm actually here because we're going to be upgrading their sound system. And I want to document this to show that if you're whatever type of system that you got right now, and say you want to move to a digital board, which is what I'm moving them to, what do you need to do and what do you need to check to see how all that stuff works? So I'm going to take you along because right now we're documenting everything so that I can make sure that everything is in place, or we might need to do some extra work. Hopefully we won't need to do that. But let me prop these doors open, and I need a couple of tools for us to test. Now, a lot of people wonder, what do you need for a digital board? It's not like you need anything any different than you already have. Depending on how it was set up, the simplest thing is you literally just take all the connections that are already in your existing board, your analog board, and then you just plug them into the new digital board, and it just works. So that is the hope that we use with this. Now, the board that currently is being used here at Antioch is kind of like right before they went 100% digital. It is a Roland M400. And give me 1 second. So like I was saying, it was kind of a early version of a digital board. It's a Roland M400 that has digital features, but it doesn't have all of them. Meaning that one of the advantages of having a digital board is it has network connectivity, so that if you want to sit out in the congregation or walk around, you can actually hook it up to a tablet and you can control the mix, and you don't necessarily have to be right in front of the board. So let's take a quick tour on everything here. So let me spin you around. All right, so here's the board. It is a 48 channel, but they don't use all 48 channels. Actually, it's only 24 that are actually being used. And this is everything that I had set up. So that's the advantage of this. But we turn everything on. So right now, it says 48 channels, but they're not being used. So from right here, all of these are being used, 3 that are not. So that's 21 that we're using right there. Then we have our second row, another 24. So let's count it. That's 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. And that's it. So they're only using 27 channels. All of these are jacks that are like in the front and on the sides and stuff like that, but they have not been used. So again, that's 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. 27, which gives us another 5 that we can use with the other board, because I'm putting an X32 compact up here because that's what I'm comfortable with, and that's what I've used predominantly. We're going to put that up. So all of this is not going to be needed. We're going to run the computer into the X32 over USB. The CDs don't even use that anymore. The AV mix, that's not being used. All of this front stuff's going to go away. All this other stuff is not being used. And then all of these auxes are meant for output that we're never really trained on and we're never really shown. So that's what we're going to be doing. So the board that we're picking, you want to make sure if you're upgrading right now, they're actively using 24 channels. So I wouldn't want to upgrade to a different board, to a digital board that can't supply what's currently being used. So again, this is 48 channels. They're not using it all. At most, they're using 38 8 or even 40, we can actually support that through aux inputs and stuff like that. So the X32 Compact is good for this. If you wanted to go with an SQ5, that can work with this as well, the SQ6, anything like that. You just want to have the same amount of channels, but if you're doing this, why not go to more channels so that you can help set yourself up in the future? Also, these are all of the zones that they have right now. So they have the choir speakers, the wedge A, wedge B, external speakers, video. I have no idea what that is. Back of house, CD recording, never used that. And we have 14 channels that we can use for separate mixes. So when we do this, let's talk through what we're going to do. So we have speakers down here for the choir. Actually, let me take you down there and let's just actually look at it. All right, so for our first zone, it's going to be our external speakers, and which is funny that they only put one speaker here. I put 2 in at TCF. But anyway, that's one speaker. This is external, the Narthex, and then there are actually external speakers that are outside that go as well too. You can't see them, but they are external out here. So external, that's one zone. Narthex, that's another zone. That's 2. So we're looking at aux mixes or mix buses. We also have, this is going to be back of house. So we need to make sure we have these separated because I don't know how these are done. We're going to be reverse engineering this stuff as well too. So we got 1 zone, 2 zones. We have 3, which is going to be the center array, the sides array. So we could do left and right and center. We might come across that. But that's going to be our mains. So we don't have to worry about that. We probably can tie this into the mains too or separate it so that the volume will be different. So what's that? We're at 3, 4. We're not counting these. 5 would be the subs. I'm actually going to put them separately. You can do them in a different way, but that's just what I'm choosing to do. And if you wanted to know, where are they at? Whoops, I made a mess. Thankfully, my adopted mom did this, so let me clean this up so she won't spank me. All right, so here are the jacks, like I said, that have been bent, and these have never been used. So that's why we don't need to worry about routing these, but we can if need be. So cleaning up my mess, I messed up. So we got external is 1, Narthex is 2, this back under the media booth, that's 3, subs are 4. We have the pulpit speakers, that's 5. And I don't know if you can hear, there's a hum there that hopefully to terminate some cables and get rid of that too. And see, I'm talking too much because I messed up my count already. So that's 3, 4, 5. The choir mics are 6. Traditionally, there is a band mix with this speaker over here. That's 7. And that's mainly it. And then 8 will be the live stream. So with the current board there was never a live stream mix set up. So that's going to be the beauty of this as well too. We're going to split this out. Now, in the future, this system is also, in the existing system, they only had 2 personal mixers. So the drummer and the bass would have one. So everybody didn't have everything to split. So we're going to set this up to where all the musicians are going to have personal mixers as well too. And then hopefully we'll be able to do that, which will help with the audio balancing, that we're going to get rid of all the amps up here as well so we can control the sound. Now, I didn't bring my tool. Yes, I did. Yay. All right, so the other thing we need to do is, like I said, this was a hybrid type of digital system, so it has some advantages. You might have a snake at your church, which this was nothing but a long extension cable with a lot of XLR cables in one bundle. Now they've kind of replaced that to where you can send everything over an Ethernet cable, a shielded Ethernet cable. And that's kind of the situation that we want to test back here. So here's the rack, and they're kind of two set stage boxes that we're going to be able to consolidate and shrink this significantly compared to what it is right now. But this is their existing setup. So they're only using two boxes, but it has, and I have no idea. Yeah, these are the two boxes that are providing power. I don't know what the other two are connected to. Oh, these are line in. Okay. So that's how this is going to be bridged. But we want to make sure that the stage box, which we're going with a 32 channel one, is going to sit in here. And this is how everything is going to be connected. So we got more than enough. And like I said, we have more channels that aren't being used as well too. So that's 16, only 14 are being used here. That's 4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. What's that? 16, 20, 24, 27, 28. So 28 are being used right here. But then again, like I said, a bunch of these are not even being used. So these are going to jacks that have never been used. So we don't need to have an exact duplicate of this. We'll be able to shrink this because the stage box that we're putting in here is going to be this size. So again, what I mainly want to do is when they ran these cables, when they were building this new part of the sanctuary, they ran all these cables up under the concrete. And we want to make sure we don't have to do that and this cable is good. And to be quite honest, I'm looking at this right now. This is not a shielded cable. That's typically the type of cable that you would need to put in here. But what we're going to do is we're going to put a test on here, and we want to verify that the cable is fine. Also, these are the amps that are back here, and we should only have to move stuff. So right now, this amp, the bottom one, powers the subwoofers and the choir speakers. This is the one that I replaced a few years ago that blew. I think this one is the center array, I believe. But we will see. And almost all of this stuff is actually going to be replaced. But we put a line tester on the other side. Let's go back up to the booth and let's test this out. Now, if you don't have anything like this in place, this is where you would put a shielded Cat5e cable that will bridge from here to wherever your stage box is if you need them. You might not need a stage box, but in here we do because we're so far away from everything. But if you need to do something like this, you can get a shielded Cat5e cable, or you can get an Ethercon cable that looks like an XLR and it locks in place. Whichever one will work. I've done both. The shielded Cat5Es is cheaper, but the only difference is it doesn't have a locking mechanism on the other side. So there's the other end. Now let's test to see which one is which. Now, real quick, like I told y'all, this is the conduit that all the cables are ran that go all the way down under the concrete, under the floor, all the way to the back and back up. That's why you want to make sure you test this, because that will be a pain to have to run a new cable all the way up under there. Now, if you're doing something new, make sure you do this. I mean, this could easily also be ran up in the ceiling and over, but you would need a lift for that. But just be mindful if you're looking at doing a digital board and you need a stage box, what's the path that cable is going to run? All right, here's the first one. And there we go. It actually says it has a short in that line. So, yeah, I think this actually has to be terminated in a different way, because looking at this, the colors are in a different order. So I might have to change the termination of that, but the cable is fine. Let's make sure we plug this into the right thing. And let's just make sure, and that whole thing came off with that. Let's go ahead and test this one. just to make sure I'm on the right one. And that's a short 2. So I think that's because this is a different termination, but we do have a response back. So that is fine. So that's going to be replaced here. This is actually a cable that I left this past Sunday. All right. So based off of what we got, we should only have to literally unplug all these cables that are here. And these are all mic ends. And if you didn't have any kind of layout, this gives you an opportunity to do this. So as you can see, we have 7 inputs that are local, and then the ones on the bottom are out. So those are going to the speakers here. So we should be good from here. The other thing we're going to do is, in this setup I did originally, see, this wasn't a full digital board, so this is sending EBD or EDB audio, digital audio out, and this is coming out from here. And then that cable goes into a Behringer Ultramatch that converts it to what the ATEM needs. We don't need this anymore, because what we're going to do is our other zone that I talked about is the live streaming one. So here locally on the board, we're going to have addressed 2 of these outputs here. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we got 8 here. So we might need to play around with what we have, because the other board only has 8 outs as well. So we might have to invest in a dual 1/4-inch out that will go into the back of the ATEM. The ATEM has 2 channels that go in on XLR right here. So that is very easy just to convert that over from 1/4-inch. So we're fine. We don't want to make sure we have enough jacks on the back of the board that we're doing to do what we need. We want to make this as easy as possible. Now, this is how the computer is being connected in through this RCA. We can actually repurpose this if we wanted to, but I'm actually going to use a USB-C cable. I have a video talking about how we can send audio here. That would get rid of noise, all this other stuff, and give us a connection back to this board. So that's the main thing. We just want to look at the lay of the land. And the board that we got from Sweetwater, like I said, is everything got kind of back ordered, unfortunately. So the stage box is not going to be here. But looking at here, right now, the choir mics, the choir speakers are not working for them. Actually, let me take that back. We can't use that anyway because all the mics are connected here. So the plan is, when the board comes in, which is going to be here tomorrow, actually, I'm going to come back here and, I hate saying it like this, we're going to dry fit all of this stuff together. So since we have amps back here, under the balcony, the ceiling speakers, the ceiling array, the center bottom, I don't know why that's labeled like that, left and right top and left and right bottom, I'm assuming that's how they split these. So left and right top, left and right bottom, and then we got the center. So these amps will actually power all of the speakers except for the choirs and the subwoofers over there. So when we pretty much, well, all I'm saying is when we bring this up here, we'll easily be able to at least get sound to verify that everything is working. We did a test on here, so we know that everything going back is fine, which I need to make sure that I unplug so everything can work. And that's mainly it. So when you're looking at upgrading the board, it doesn't matter if you started with an analog board or you even have a digital and you want to move to one. First, count how many channels you're currently using. Do not, this is my recommendation, just don't do a lateral move. If you have a 16-channel mixer and you move over to a 16-channel digital board, you're kind of limiting yourself. If you're going to get a new board, go for more channels so that you're preparing for the future. Check that. See if you need a snake or not. If you already have a snake, if you need a digital box or not. If you already have something, then just make sure that you do a test on it to make sure that the cable is still good and this connection is fine, and you don't need to replace that. If you do need to replace it, or if you need to put one, like I said, you can get yourself an Ethicon cable. And most of the time, I get my stuff from Sweetwater. And if you get a bundle with a stage box, they typically include a 100-foot Ethicon cable, but you can get longer if you need. You can't go over 300 feet with your cabling. And then you need to go through and track all your zones, how you want the audio to split. If you don't have any zones, this gives you an opportunity to do that. So I think that's mainly it. Now let me cut over to the computer, because the board that we're using, that we're going to be going to, has a software component, and I want to transition all of what I just told you and how this is going to be set up so we can make this easier when the board comes here. So let's go ahead and cut over to the computer. Alrighty folks, so we are back here. So let's go ahead and cut over, and like I said, we got enough pictures, we got the design, and thankfully with the software here, we can actually do a kind of prep work to get this whole system set up just based off of what we found. So let's go ahead and cut over here to my computer. Alrighty, so as you can see, let's resize this so we can put everything on the screen here. So this is the software panel for the X32. We've done plenty of videos about this, but the main thing is, like I said, we talked about all of the channels. I took pictures of everything so we can actually move everything over. So let's go ahead and do this. I mean, we can make it all pretty and put images and all this other stuff on there. We might do that, but let's go ahead and just move everything here. So going through here, and let me get my mic out the way so I can actually type. All right, so the first channel that we have going on here, this is going to be the pastor's wireless mic. All right, then the next one we had the pulpit. And let me just speed through here because we're just going to add all of these. All right, so we got everything there. We went through all of these. I didn't color code except for a couple of them, and you can change this to whatever color that you want. But we have the pastor's mic, the pulpit, the podiums, the baptistry, all the wireless mics, the hanging choir mics, the corded choir mics, the piano mic, and then all of the instruments as well as the individual drum mics. All of that is done, and we use up everything except for the last channel that I make a talkback mic. And I think I went overboard on this. I think it's only one overhead mic, and I don't think that there's a hi-hat mic, but we just did that for right now. All right, so now let's see if I can remember all of the zones that we're going to go through as well, too. So we're going to go over to auxes, not aux, excuse me. We're going to go over to bus, and actually, I'm glad I mentioned aux. Right here, this is where we have a phone connection for left and right and our PC. Now, right now, these are all separate channels, but since we're going to split this for left and right, I'm just going to go into one channel, go to config, and we're going to do a stereo link, and we're going to link aux 1 and 2. So now both of these inputs are put together. We're going to do the same thing for PC. And this is how the audio from the computer is going to come in, or if somebody has a phone or a tablet, something like that, because they don't really play CDs up there anymore. So we got that. But if we need to, we could make this a CD player, but why? You can just play the audio from the computer. All right, so now let's go over to the buses. Now, let's mention, I'm going to do this backwards just because this is how I remember how we were going to do some of these. So the first thing we want to do is have a separate bus just for our live stream. Now I can put this out on any channel I want to. I'm probably just going to use 11 and 12 just because they're so far away, and I might move this. So we're just going to call this live stream left, and I always set this to blue, but let's change it to white for right now, and we'll call this live stream right. And just like we did in the other ones, we're going to link both of these together. So when we use our dual XLR cable that we already have going to the ATEM, we're just going to plug this into the outs of whatever channels that we got in the back. Or, now that I think about it, I think we're using up all of our connections. So we're actually going to undo this. And I wish I had an undo button, because like I said, I wish I had thought about that for a second. It's just going to be one live stream now that I think about it, because we can do a Y cable to split to both of those channels. So we're good there. So there's our live stream. Now let's walk through all of these, and this is what I'm saying we're going to do in reverse. So first, we're going to have a mix for the pulpit. Then we're going to have a mix for the choir. All right. That's going to be for those choir speakers that are up there. For right now, I'm going to have a band mix, but ultimately when we go to in-ear monitors for them, we're not going to need to use this. But we got it here anyway, and I'll show you how we can use this as well. So what else do we have? We have the, I don't want to say exterior, because they actually have exterior speakers. So let me actually do that. This is exterior. Why am I having an issue typing? So that's exterior. That's outside the building. But then outside of the sanctuary, we're just going to call this overflow. And we can always change the name. This is going to be in the narthex and different areas that we can have speakers. And thankfully, there are no other speakers that I'm aware of that are in outside of the new sanctuary. So this is the only one we have to really worry about. So let's go through it again. We have the pulpit, the choir, the band, the overflow, the exterior. And I'm going to do this, but somebody else told me I might not need to do this. I can use this as a center channel, but I'm going to make one for the subs. And this is what we're going to assign to those. And let's set that as yellow. And what I'm going to do as well is I want to have all mics as a separate mix. And there's a reason for this as well. Change that to green. And what other stuff do we have? I don't think we need anything else, but I'm going to do all auxes. I don't think this is needed, but we're going to do this anyway. Let's mark that as red. Now, all the auxes are going to be all of these channels, and maybe I should make that green since that's already green, and we'll do all mics to red. All right. So that's what we got. And I like to have the live stream far away, so that's easy to do. And let's color code these now. Not that it really matters, but it does help when we actually start programming this stuff. And I'm going to do these in solid colors. And exterior, what can we do? We'll do that in white. All right. So that is mimicking what was done in the other sections. All right. So now let's go through all of this. Now that we've listed everything, and I like color coding this because it actually helps you assign stuff. So for each one of the mixes that we're doing, we don't need to send everything to each channel. That's the beauty of this. So for example, I want to go to let's do all auxes because this should make it simple. Now we've selected this, and if we go back to our channels, and we're going to go to aux, you see there's a green outline. So that's why the color corresponds to know that whatever is on, that's what's going to this channel. So for all the auxes, I'm just going to set all of these at 0. And that's what's going to be going to this channel. If we go to the other channel, 17 through 32, see nothing is going here. And I'm actually going to turn this off. And I'm glad I clicked on this because I realized there's another channel I need to make in here. So we can come in here, and these are physically off. So none of these other channels are going to the mix called all auxes because we're only sending the auxes to that channel, to that mix. I hope you understand that. Now, with that being said, this is what I forgot. I also need to make a talkback mix, and we'll explain that later. But just like that, we'll go to the talkback and see none of this, and you can leave it down, or I personally just like to turn it off because that way we know this isn't going to here at all. We go to channels 1 through 16. See, we don't need none of these. We turn all of these off because the only thing we want going to that is the talkback. So like I said, you can keep the fader down, or I personally just like turning it off because there's no reason for anything else to go to this channel except for what we just did. So see, everything, all of the auxes, this is the only channel that's on. Boom, we're all good. So now let's go through everything else. So that's all auxes. Livestream, we want to actually set this as kind of like 0 for everything because this is the beauty of having a separate mix for your live stream. This is going to be custom audio that just goes to your live stream, and somebody else is going to use this app while they're in headphones to manually adjust the live mix that is separate than what's going on in the house. That's what this is beautiful for. So for right now, because we don't have this set up, we're just going to put everything at 0. But ultimately, what I like to do is set up the main mix, copy that over to the live stream because it's close to what you need, and then you dial it in so you're not doing double work. So just know I'm going to go back and do that. So let's just go through everything, and we're just going to set everything as 0 with the purpose of going to dial this in when everything is set up. And on the live stream, we are going to completely turn off the talkback because we don't want that to go onto the live stream. All right. And again, I will explain that when we get to it. So what have we done? We've set up the live stream. We set up the talkback. We set up the auxes. And actually, let's go back. Yeah, the auxes are good for the live stream. Auxes are good here. Everything else is off everywhere else. Now, let's do all mics. So I'm just setting this at a baseline of 0. These can always be dialed down. And again, because these are all mics, I'm just going to physically turn off these channels that are not mics because they don't need to go. And again, talkback, even though this is a mic, I do not want to include this in here. And in here, we'll turn off the auxes as well because we don't need that going here as well. And we can turn off the effects as well too because I'm not sending effects on those mixes. All right, now let's go to subs. Subs, this is what we're going to connect the outside subwoofers to. And because they do lows, this is where we're going to send just the instruments that are able to produce lows. And ultimately, we might add some mics, just very little. So if somebody has a deep voice, it carries over into the subs. So for right now, I'm not going to include anything. I'm not going to turn these off because I might need these. But what instruments are going to produce lows? So organ, the keyboard. So I'm not going to do a lot. I'm just going to set this now to maybe -20. And I'm just going to do that as a baseline across there. The bass, I'm probably going to make that -10. The kick or the bass drum on the drum set, I'll probably do that as a -15, or let's just make that a 10 because this is what's going to be dialed in. And I'm going to do these in reverse because the tom 3 is the biggest of the drums, side drums. So that might give us a little bit of bass. So we're going to do that as a -12. But then as you move up in a higher number, those get higher and higher pitched drums. So we don't need a lot of lows from that. So ultimately, but they still can produce a little bit. So let's just call this, set this at, I don't know, -25. And then we'll set the highest one to maybe -40. So we'll get a little bit of it, The overheads from the cymbals and the hi-hat, that's very high. We don't need that to be included. So we can actually turn off all the rest of these channels. The horn isn't going to be needed. Definitely not the guitars. The organ, yes. The keyboard, yes. Piano mic, we don't need that. And we don't need to include the talkback because we don't want, when somebody's talking back over that, to go to the subs. We don't want that included at all. And then, like I said, in the choir, this may change. We might add a little bit of it, but that's it. All right, now for exterior, this is going to be kind of a copy of everything as well, too. So we could just copy everything from our live, our main, which we haven't set yet. Let's actually do that. Let's just set all of these kind of blanket across. And this is the point where you try and dial this in, and then you just make small adjustments while you're fixing your mix when you're in service. You don't want to do drastic things. All right, now, again, in our main, we don't want to include this. Now, what we can do, and I learned this from Otis, so thank you, Otis, for this. Let's go to that channel, and if we go over to channel here at the top, see right now, this is going to be added to the mix. We don't want to turn this off on our mains because that affects all the other mixes. But in here, we're going to pull this all the way down, and we're going to uncheck live main. So it definitely won't go there as well, too. Just extra added bonus to make sure it doesn't go out. Phone, we're going to set that as 0. Aux 3 and 4. And our computer audio, we're going to set as 0, and we'll dial those in. So now that we got that, let's copy this. And we're going to paste this as our exterior. And actually, it's doing from channels 32 to 32. No, that's not. I don't think it's copying it the way I want to. So my apologies for that. Let's just go ahead and set those manually again. And I'll leave a note on how I fixed that if I found out how that's supposed to be done. But again, we're just going to 0 this out. And once we dial this in, this is going to be the same thing that we send to the exterior speakers. And this is meant for when somebody's walking up to the church, they can hear what's going on. All right. So we're just going to 0 these out, and we're definitely going to bring these in line when we actually have this set up. So that's exterior. Overflow literally is going to be the exact same thing. And it's like, AJ, why not, instead of having a separate mix, if it's the exact same thing, why not just have all these speakers go to the same mix? That is a very good question, because people are picky. And it might be good for the entrance at this volume, but then in another part of the church, hey, I might want to turn this down. So that's the benefit of being able to change this stuff, and you do it in different zones. And again, you never know, that probably might change, but I like to just set it up like this, and then it can be changed. So the overflow is going to be like the North X. That might change to the name of this. I don't know. Now let's go to band. In band, I don't want to include any effects. I don't want to include any of the auxes. All I want are instruments. So, and that also does not include the piano mic. So this is going to be just piano, organ, the guitars, the bass, the horn, the kick, the drums, the hi-hat, overheads, and the toms. And this also does not include talkback, and it does not include any of the mics. It's literally just the music and nothing else. And also the beauty of this, outside of the drums, a little bit, and the organs a little bit, because they're not a direct connection into the system. By doing this, it will give a much cleaner sound with all the instruments being plugged in. We're doing away with the amps so that everything comes in. So when they have personal in-ear monitors, they're going to have a channel called band that they can turn up and down. That will be the overall for everything if they want to. So I like to make that option. All right, so nothing in there. Nothing except for instruments here, nothing on these channels. Now this, we're on the choir now. These are the speakers that are for the choir to hear. So you definitely will want to hear all of the mics, the people talking into the podiums, the choir mics, the overheads. Now, the overhead choirs, I might actually make that -15 for right now because those mics are so far away. But again, we might dial that back in. And we'll put these all at 0. We do want to have the piano mic if somebody's singing on there that's leading that. And then might want to put a little bit of the keys in there so people can hear the music, the choir. Do the same thing for the organ. Probably not that much of the guitar, if at all. Now I'm being biased mainly just because when I taught choirs, it's like I didn't need to hear that. Mainly, I like to hear the keys for the melody, where I'm going, the bass, and the kick, and maybe the snare, just to know the timing of where to go on. But again, that is partial to your choir. So we'll put bass at -20. Don't want to put horn because that's a directional instrument. You're going to be able to hear that fine anyway. The kick there, maybe the snare, and all the other stuff kind of don't need. I'll leave those down if we need to change them because the choir might want to hear something else. So there's the choir. And then on the pulpit, definitely all of the pulpit mics. So that's going to be the pastor's wireless, the pulpit mic itself, the podiums, the baptistry, the wireless mics, not the overheads, particularly, maybe the left and right corded mics and all of the handhelds, and also the piano mic. Now, it depends on who's preaching. Sometimes they might want to hear a little bit of organ if they're doing some backing with them. So for right now, I'll do a -15, -15 on the organ. Not going to include any of the guitars, maybe a little bit of bass. No horn. A little bit of the kick. Put that -20. Do the snare. Maybe the same thing, but at -30. And then the overheads and all that other stuff, not needed. No talkback. And maybe a little bit of phone, maybe a little bit of PC and USB, because you never know. Pastor might want to play something that's from the computer for a video or something with their sermon. So they want to be able to hear what's going on instead of the speakers that are facing them, instead of the speakers that are facing the congregation, then bouncing off the wall. All right. And we don't need no effects in there. And we'll undo those. And that's mainly it. Now, one other thing I will call out, and I'm being honest that I have not used this configuration, but I'm going off of what I was told, learning myself. Now, one option that you do have in here is to actually enable, left, center, and right. So that gives you some more panning options. So you can actually, because of how the speakers are split, they have they got the left, right, and then they have that center array that we can actually pan the audio appropriately if you really want to be fancy. So like the altos sit over to the right in the choir stand looking at the pulpit. Then the tenors in the center and the sopranos are to the left. You could, if you wanted to be real fancy, you can come in here to the left choir and you can pan that over to the left a little bit so it actually sounds like they're actually coming from the left. The choir's in the center, and then the choir right, you can pan it over to the right. You could do that, and that would send the signal to the speakers that way, and you can set it up that way if you wanted to. I'm not going to do it that way right now, and we also need to enable the center channel for that to actually work. And actually, no, I don't think you need it on that. I think you just need it on the one that's actually going to be in the center. But like I said, this is someone that told me about it. I might play around with that. But for right now, I probably won't do anything like that. All right. So now, one other setting that we go, and I know this is long, but we're going to do this in a series because the board is going to be here Thursday, and then we're going to slowly do this. So hopefully this will help you if you're looking at trying to go with a digital board, upgrading, or putting one in place, all the steps. And I want to show all of that. So now we're going to go over to routing. And this is going to be more important when we physically have everything. But with the X32, this is what I like because of our configuration of how we do this. I'm going to set the inputs, instead of them going sequentially 1 through 8, 1 through 32, and you just plug them in each jack. We want to selectively pick which ones go where, because right now, these mics, all of these mics here, the wireless mic is in the media booth. The pulpit, the podiums, and everything, that's actually back on the back of the sanctuary on the stage box. Then the wireless ones here, that's in the media booth. Then the wired ones are back on the stage box. The choir hanging mics are in the stage box. And then all the wireless are back in the media booth. See, they're going back and forth. So we can't just say, oh, 1 through 8, 9 through 16 are always located here and there. So with the X32 and some other boards as well, like the Studio Live PreSonus 32S that we just did, you can selectively pick which channel is which, and you can just make it mix and match wherever they're located. So to do that, we go into our routing, we go to inputs, and we want to set our inputs to user. So now the user can pick whichever order that stuff wants to go. And if we go to our actual XLRs now, this is where everything is. And wait a minute. I think yeah, so we put it right there. Then our outs, we're going to come back to this. This is how we can adjust where our outs are going to go relative to the actual jack that is on the stage box. And some of this we're going to be able to replicate because some of these are going to be physical connections as well too. So here we go. This is where I missed out. We're now at the user in section. So this is where we pick where which channel is located. So if I can do this side by side, I kind of know some of this stuff. So right now, where's the jack? Local or the stage boxes right here, or the card, which is the computer if it's connected to the board over USB, and then your aux in. We'll worry about that later. So for right now, on the board, where is the input coming from and where's the source? All right. So if we look at it right now, the wireless mic here, that's actually located in the booth. So that's going to be a local connection. So we want to route the local connection number 1 into channel number 1. So we just press a 1 right there. So that's where it's routed. Now the pulpit, the podiums, and all this other stuff. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's actually going to be on the stage box. So we're going to come over here to the stage box here. So you see number 1 is here. Now, jack number 1 on the stage box is actually going to be routed to channel number 2. So we just click there. And then the podiums, 3 and 4. Baptistry, we're just going to say that's jack number 4 on the stage box, but that's going to be channel number 5 here. This can change because I have no idea what the actual jacks are. This is just me showing you here. Now, the next thing we have our 2 wireless mics that are also located in the booth. So we're going to cut back over here to our local connections. We're going to pick up on local input number 2. We drop down to the next free channel, which is channel 6 right here. That is 6. That is 7 for the 2 wireless mics. Then we got another 2 corded mics. That's going to be channel 9. Channel 8 right here, but that's actually going to be connected to the stage box. So we jump back over here, and that is input number 5, which is going to be right here. Now that's 1 through 8. Now we need to go through 9 through 10. We just come down and we're still looking at inputs 1 through 8. But we're looking now on channels 9 through 10. I hope you understand that. It's like the matrix that we're laying this out. So we left off at 5. So the next one is going to be 6. So 6 is going to be channel 9, which is the choir right. And then we have the next 3 here. So that's going to be 7, 8. And now we're done with all of our inputs through 1 through 8. 1 through 8 on the stage box. So now we need to go over. So now that we can get to inputs 9 through 16 on the stage box. All right, so we left off here. So we're going to do 9, which is 12. That is the right choir. Now we're back to wireless mics 1 through 4, which are local. So we cut over here and we go back to number 1 because we still haven't used up all of our connections here. So we've only gone to local input number 3. So we need to drop down and we're going to start at 4, 5, 6, 7. So 4, 5, 6, 7 physical connections on the back, but they correspond to channels 13 through 16. I hope you're understanding what we're doing here. All right. So we've got all of the 16 channels. Now let's go to our next set of channels, which is going to be 17 through 24. And let's go over to here, 17 through 24 here. And let's go back to our routing. Now this should be pretty straightforward because almost all the rest of these are connected to the stage box. So we could literally just now, let's make sure we got this right. So 9 is right there. So we actually have to start at 10. So we start off here. So now that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then we go to our next one. We still got one more here. So we go over. 17 is 24. Now let's go down. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. And that's our 32 channels. And then we're going to put another mic on 32. So we just go over one more. And we're going to make that 25. So that's going to leave us another 6 plugs in our stage box, but we can't use it because we've used up all of our channels. There's ways around it, but I'm just doing old school, simple. We can do digital routing and point it to whatever and make another jack something else. I'm not doing that right now. We just want to make this simple. All right. So boom, there we go. And what we got going in on our inputs. Now, if we jump back over here, our card, we could do the same thing here. I'm actually going to, this is actually the output, so I'm not going to actually worry about that. We'll come back to that one. We did our XLR outs. So we have 8 outs on the back of the physical board, but 16 on the stage box that we're using. So we can route our outputs in any way we want to right there. And this is going to change. So let me see. I took a picture, and that's what I've been looking at when I look up here, so I can see the pictures that I took from the board. All right. So in here, this is actually going to correspond to the output that we put on the stage box. So locally, we're going to have our output speakers. That's exterior. This, I'm looking at this physically from the pictures that we took. That's going to be jack number 1 on the back of our local board in the media booth. Then the next one we had under balcony and ceiling speakers. So those 2, we might actually do the same thing. So for our ceiling speakers, that's actually going to be our main center. And this is where I said we might use that channel. So that's going to be main center. Because those, no. Those are actually under balcony and ceiling speakers. I might need to split that. So under the ceiling, no. Ceiling speakers, that's actually going to be exterior. Excuse me, not exterior. We renamed it overflow. That's what's going to be in the narthex, the entrance of the church. And then the next one we have is under the balcony. I still got to figure out what we're going to do with that. And then our next 2 outputs are center top and center bottom. So both of those are going to be just this channel where that's doing the center. And then our next are going to be our left and right. So that's going to be output number 5 is going to be our left main. And then 6 is going to be our right main. That shows, so we're splitting everything through our system here. And output number 7 and 8, this is where I think we might have to do something different. So I'm just going to say for right now, 7, I'm going to use that as the under the balcony, that little speaker. So that's going to mimic the same thing that's in the center because it's in line with the center array of speakers. So I'm just going to do that as center. And then number 8, this is what I'm going to pick as our live stream. That's what I'm going to connect to our ATEM to get audio in a separate mix. Now, these numbers kind of correspond as well to the stage box as well. So we got to be mindful of that in how this is connected. But in the back, it looks like it's only choir. I think I took a picture of that as well, too. In the back, it's just choir and subs that I believe. Yeah, that's what it is. So from here, jack number 8, this is where, and actually the pulpit, that's also where that goes. So let's just do it that way. So 8 is going to be for the pulpit. 9 is going to be for the choir. 10 will be for the band. We don't need overflow, exterior. We'll do 11 for the subs, and I think that's split between 2 channels there because we got 16 physical connections on the stage box. We don't need all mics, don't need all auxes, don't need talkback. All right, so we're going to do, say this is split, and we have, I think it's actual 2 channels for each one. So I think the pulpit is actually 2 speakers. The choir is 1. The band is 2, I believe. And the subs are 2. So that leaves us 2 extra channels that we can use. I'm just going to turn those off right now. So this is just kind of a rough estimate how we can do this. I could actually switch this and no. I think this is going to be fine. So that's how everything's going to do. We're going to have a Y cable that splits this out and goes to the left and right channels on the ATEM. So we're all good. So this handles our out. I'm not going over the post fade and all this other stuff. This just pretty much means that the faders are going to, the signal that goes to these speakers are going to be sent based on the faders that have been done. So it's post fade. After these have been set, that's the signal at the volume level that goes to that speaker. So that's what we have it set to. So right now, 10 is not being used. So let's just set these up. And mics, aux, talkback, live stream. And I might actually move this to 10. Let's actually do that. Set that to 10. We'll set this at default. So now let's go back to our routing and fix that. We just got to go back 1. Boom. So now that's fixed. We just did our mix. We brought in all our channels. We just labeled them everything. We got our routing. We got our levels set kind of at a basic initialization level and all this other stuff. We haven't done EQs, gates, none of that stuff. This is just basic. Now, one other thing we're going to do. Let's go back over to our routing. And the Ultranet is the personal in-ear monitors, the P16s that we've used multiple times. That's what the system can support. This is what's going to go to the musicians. And this is, we did a bunch of other aux mixes, mix buses for all mics, aux, band, and all this other stuff. So this is where we're going to use this. This is meant for the musicians. So for the musicians, we're going to come over here And we have 16 channels that they're going to have control over. We just send it to them and they can set it at whatever level that they want. And I jokingly say with this, the musicians can blow their eardrums out if they want to, because they're going to be in headphones and it's only affecting them. And we're getting rid of the amps so they can set whatever they want, but the media is in control of the sound that comes from the stage and everywhere. So what we want to do is set our channels that are going to the mixers so that they'll be satisfied. They can adjust whatever they want to their liking. So from here, we're going to start at channel 17, which is the piano. Well, actually, the piano mic. We're going to start that with 18. And then we're going to do organ, guitar 1, 2, the bass, the horn, and then we'll put the drums here, mainly for our drummer. And we might consolidate a bunch of these because we lose a lot of channels by doing this. We only had 2 left. So from here, we're going to set the last channel as our, not as a physical talkback. We need to actually have 15 be a mix. And that is going to be the mix of all of the mics. So they'll be able to hear the entire band, the entire choir there. So there's all mics. Every mic that comes through, that's how they're going to be able to hear. Because the idea is to have them in cupped ears, headphones, so they're hearing nothing but the mix. But they have all the instruments. They can set all of those instruments at whatever level that's comfortable to them. They can turn some instruments completely off if they want to, but they're in control of what they hear. But with all the mics coming in, the choir as well as anybody on the pulpit, they have that as one channel so they can turn it up or down to their pleasure so they can hear if somebody's listening. And then the last channel is the talkback. This is the one that has been nothing but themselves. So the idea is in this talkback, there's going to be another microphone that is beside the musician who's ever leading. Like when I played the other week, it'll be another mic there. So because this is being routed into the headphones that all the other musicians are, they can talk into this microphone. It doesn't go anywhere except for the musicians. So now everybody, all the musicians at headphones, somebody can be like, hey, the next song we're going to do is going to be in B flat. We're going to start at this tempo. Hey, drums, I don't want anybody to come in except for the drums and the piano until this part. You're talking into the microphone, and the only people that can hear that are going to be the people in the musicians that are using the personal mixers. That's where that comes in from. And then now in the media booth, if we go back to settings, actually, let's go to monitor. Now in the media booth, they also have a plugin that can do talkback as well. You actually have 2 of them. One of them, we want that to go to the house. So when they press that button, and they talk, it will talk to everybody in the entire sanctuary. So if they want to make an announcement or something like that. But then Talkback B, this is the one where we want to assign it to this Talkback. So that is mix number 9. So now when people are on, the musicians can talk, the lead can talk to the musicians, they hear it, but then somebody in the booth, when they press talkback number 2, them talking is only going to that same mix. So they're the only ones that can hear it. So it could be like, hey, musicians, this is AJ here in the media booth, and pretty much Pastor wants y'all to actually do this song next or cut this next song. Or, hey, bass, you're too loud. I'm actually pulling you back right now in the house. Something like that. So you can communicate that way. So that is the beauty of this. Latching just means that you can press the button and it will stay on the entire time, compared to, oh, you have to hold the button down the entire time for sound to be heard. I like to physically have to hold it down because if you latch it and you hit it and it stays on, some people might forget to turn it off. So that's the beauty of all of this. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to save all of this as a scene. So I'm just going to save this on my computer, and we're just going to call this, yes, that's Horizon Forbidden West. Play that here in a little bit. We're just going to set this as today. And I'll say this is Antioch Initial. So the beauty of this, when I get the board, now that this has been saved, I can either connect this here, put this on a thumb drive, and just upload it to the board, and everything that we've just done will get pushed to the board. And in theory, if we did everything right, all I got to do is plug in everything, and if we made all the connections right, we should be able to just get sound immediately. That's not going to happen because some of the mics have phantom power, and we have to go through and test all of those. And the jacks that we did might not be the right one. That's when we go back and to that routing matrix and we change which one. But we've really set ourselves up for going in the future. So I know this was a long video, but this is meant to show you, if you're looking at getting a board, what steps you need to do to make sure that that works. And what prep work do you do by translating what your original board is doing over to this new board? So excited about getting this. This has been like a process of 8 to almost 10 years in the making of trying to get them set on this board. So be on the lookout for part 2, where we see that, hey, did we do this right? And we put this in place. Can we get sound? Can we do all of this? And we start dialing it in. But let me know if you have any other questions. I know a bunch of y'all have asked me, how come I'm not using this board? Again, I'm using the X32 because I've installed it at least 30 times, so I'm comfortable with that. I've messed with the Persona Studio Live 32S maybe 4 times. I've messed with a bunch of Allen and Heath's, the SQ5 and SQ6. I've messed with the Wing. But there have been a handful of times compared to what I've had at the X32. I used to have one. So that's what I'm comfortable with, and that's why I know I'm proficient enough to teach them, the media, on how to do that instead of having a brand new board, learning it myself, then handing it off to them. So, but I say all that to say, if you have any other questions, leave them down below, and make sure you have that bell notification on. That way you get notified when we come out with part 2, when we actually physically install it. And also, there's something funky going on with YouTube that even if you're subscribed, it doesn't notify when new videos are coming out. It's the change of the algorithm once again. So make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure you have bell notification on, that you're notified of everything. And then, because sometimes it won't show new videos on your main page, you might have to go to subscription tab that most people don't go to. I don't know why YouTube made that change, but just letting you know, if you missed that, make sure you have the notifications, because I think that does still notify you when we come out with new videos. But I think that's about it. Link is down below to everything that I'm using. Big shout out again. Thank you, Patrick, over at Sweetwater. He's my go-to guy and my account manager or whatever, because I order so much from Sweetwater. So I appreciate him getting this stuff out to me quick, fast, in a hurry, and it should be here tomorrow. So I'm excited about that, but I think that's about it. So if you like this type of content, appreciate a like, consider subscribing, hit that bell, that way you get notified when we come out with other videos to help modernize your media ministry. Thanks for watching, folks. This is AJ. Catch you on the next video. Later.